What's going on, everyone? So welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the side of high ticket sales that no one talks about. So I'm going to lay out like my honest opinion and what most people won't tell you, and then kind of explain a little bit about the reason behind why I transitioned to a completely different industry. So if you haven't had the chance to meet me, my name is Jacob Sharrow. I'm 22. I live in Tampa, Florida. I went from $0 a month as a college bartender, broke, unfulfilled college student, to over $30,000 in a single month in just 11 months. So again, in this video, I want to touch on if you want to make money online and you don't know where to start, or you're interested in potentially getting into sales, or you just want to figure out a route that you can change your situation, then watch this video through fully. It'll explain, exactly what I did and, the side of things that most people won't tell you, right? So I want to first start by saying high ticket sales there's so many business models out there, right? When it comes down to learning a high value skill, like most people say, there's only a couple out there that you can do that's going to make you a shit ton of money, right? And me personally, not only a year ago was I good at already talking to people, I was very social, right? Good at communicating, but not I personally believe that sales is the best skill that you can learn on this planet besides marketing, because sales and marketing go hand in hand. But if you can't sell anything as an entrepreneur, then you're not going to make any money, right? So I wanted to kind of lay that out. Sales is a great starting point for anyone that wants to learn a skill, make a lot of money, and just transform your life right as quickly as possible. So in this video specifically, high ticket sales, and that's what I did from May of last year, 2024. I started as an appointment setter, and I eventually moved into closing after 4 to 5 months. I became a closer. And then I closed from about, I think it was September, October, all the way to up until basically May. So I want to start by saying high ticket sales is a great way to start in business, right? Online business, sales in general, right? No matter what type of sales. Sales at the end of the day is the art of communication. It is. Most people think of, sales, they're like, oh, sell me this pen, or, oh, scummy car salesman, right? But sales is actually the complete opposite of that. It's helping, people first and foremost to either make a change or help them, in a way by selling a product, right? Or a service, right? Whether that's coaching, whether that's insurance, whether that's a car, right? You're selling someone to make a change, right? You're selling the change and the transformation and what that change will bring to them and how it's going to truly benefit them at the end of the day, right? And you do that through communicating and articulating, your words well, and having a conversation with someone to get them to, sales is a transfer of belief and energy, right? If you don't truly believe in what you're selling and you truly don't align your actions and who you are with the words that you're telling this person, then you're not going to be, good at sales, right? So communication, persuasion, right? Emotional intelligence, learning how to just be a human and help people in the process. High ticket sales is the best, skill in my opinion to get your foot into the door with online business and becoming an entrepreneur, right? You literally get paid to learn the back end of a business, right? You get to see the funnels from turning eyeballs on social media into dollars, right? So you get to see funnels from people filling out applications, opting into funnels, right? And actually going through a full sales process to actually convert into a client, right? So you get paid, very well, right? So how high ticket sales works is, for example, let's say you're selling a coaching program and you're the closer, right? Appointment setters set the appointments for the closers, right? And as a closer, right, let's say you're selling a $5,000 coaching program for e-commerce, let's say, right? So the person hops on, I get on an hour-long Zoom call with them, and I basically sell them this course, but more importantly, I'm selling them the decision to make a change and go all in on a business model, right? So with that said, you as the closer, you get 10% of the deal you close. So if you close someone for a $5,000, coaching program, then you get $500, right? Which, like I said, it's a very good skill to obviously learn everything I just mentioned, but also as well, right, make, a good amount of money, right? So you're getting paid to learn how businesses work. You're getting paid to learn a great skill to communicate with people, to help people, most importantly. And you're getting, paid at potentially $100 an hour. If you make a $10,000 sale, then you get $1,000 in commission. So you're making $1,000 in an hour, right? But then you could go a week without making a single dollar as well. So high ticket sales is a great vehicle to get your foot in the door of a business and actually, get an idea of what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And the connections you make, especially in the high ticket space, they're outstanding, right? I've met so many people, so many of my best friends and people that I know. Like, high ticket sales changed my life, right? You build confidence, discipline, everything. Sales is like a sport at the end of the day, right? If you are eating garbage food, if you're not waking up on time, if you're not watching film, right, then you're not going to be the best player on the field and probably won't even get playing time and won't perform at a high level. Sales is the same way. You need to be sharp mentally, physically, right? You need to be sharp in every aspect because, again, sales being a transfer of energy and belief. If your energy's off and you're not feeling it, you're not sharp, the other person will sense that and you're just not going to be able to help them at, your best ability. So, if anyone is, think about if you should get into sales, whether it's insurance, whether it's high ticket, whether it's car sales, I 100% recommend getting into a sales job as a way to learn how business works. It's going to serve you and help you become a different type of person and transform your life, right? Especially if you're a college student or you're in a 9-to-5 that you hate, right? So great way to get your foot in the door. I know I kind of repeated a couple things there, but I want to get into, and this is what this video is titled, is either the dark side or the honest truth, like whatever I'm going to title it. But I want to talk about the aspect of sales and high ticket sales as well that, high ticket sales specifically, actually, that most people don't tell you, right? Most people don't tell you because they're selling you a dream, like, oh, work from anywhere, make $10,000 a month, working a couple hours a day. And that's just not the reality of what sales is whatsoever, right? In my opinion, it's one of the hardest business models. It's not hard to get into, right? There's a low barrier to entry because it doesn't require any capital, but it's one of the hardest to master and get good at because of the unrelenting, time, effort, energy, and discipline that it takes to get good at it, right? So a lot of people can start, but a lot of people don't last, right? But I want to get into a couple of things that people don't talk about necessarily when it comes to this space. And the first thing I want to get into is, like I said, sales has changed my life. It's paid off for me tremendously, taught me a lot, but it is a glorified 9-to-5 at the end of the day. And that's the first thing. People will sell you, oh, work 2 to 3 hours a day, working on the beach in Fiji, and we can work from anywhere and, make all this money. Like, yes, technically, if you're like DM setting, you probably could do that, and not make 10K a month. It'd be a couple grand, like 2-3 probably a month. But at the end of the day, it's a glorified 9-to-5. It's a high paying 9-to-5, right? Because you don't have the freedom that people say you do, right? Because again, it's a sport. If you're not putting the necessary time into it, you're not going to get the return and you're not going to progress as quickly as someone who's putting in, 3-4 hours outside of selling, right, to get better, right? It's just professional athletes, the ones that work the most and over the longest period of time, consistently, that person is always going to outwork and outlast someone who doesn't do that, right? So it is a glorified 9-to-5. When you're DM setting, it's a little more flexible. You can answer DMs at 11, p.m. at night if you wanted to. Like, that is the beauty of DM setting, and that's why I say, like, getting into high ticket as a DM setter, it's a great way to make a couple grand a month and learn how, business kind of works. It's a great starting point, but as you move up to a closer, you're going to make more money, right? But it also does come with, the different side of less flexibility, more what's the word? Like there's going to be more pressure on you, right? Because you're the one that is closing the deal. You're the one that, it's all dependent on, right? Like, and another thing, which I'm going to talk about in a sec, I haven't mentioned this too much, but on social media or anything, but I'm going to be switching over to life insurance sales and building a team and stuff like that, but I'll talk about that at the end of this video. But within info products and coaching programs and courses and high ticket, like the business is very reliant on the sales reps, right? Because with insurance, let's say, it's a multi-trillion dollar industry, right? So the business won't fall apart if one agent doesn't sell. But if you have 2 appointment setters and 2 closers, right? And one of the appointment setters and one of the closers goes on a trip for a week or 2, right? And they're not really working as much, they're not locked in, like the business's revenue and profit is literally going to be cut in half, right? So info products are very, very reliant on the sales team, which is why it's very good to get good and go all in and, get your foot in the door, but it's not sustainable, right? And that's the main thing. If you want to take a weekend off, yeah, you can, but the business is going to lose a lot of money. And if the business isn't making a ton of money, right, then the sales manager's not making as much money, and then the team isn't making as much money, and that kind of, can affect people's mentals and stuff like that. But the main thing is people sell you this dream of like, you get all this freedom. Yes, you can eventually get there, and you can eventually, have freedom with sales management or building out a team or starting your own offer. But in the beginning, it's trenches. Like it requires hard work, grit, consistency. And that's something a lot of people won't tell you is, this shit is not easy by any means. It's very simple and straightforward on, getting into it. But when it comes down to actually progressing and moving the needle and improving, it's very, very, very time intensive, energy intensive, and you gotta fucking work for that shit. And no one's gonna give you a handout in sales. So that's the first thing is like, there's not as much freedom as people make it out to be, which I enjoy working 8, 10, 12 hours a day. So it's not like, oh my gosh, don't get into sales because you don't want to work hard. Like, that's not what I'm saying, but like there isn't the freedom aspect that people sell you the dream of, if that makes sense. So that's the first thing. Second thing I want to talk about is inconsistency, right? And inconsistency, especially in sales, right, is one thing, but within info products specifically, it's even more prevalent. So sales, obviously, it's like a sport, right? You're going to have some good weeks, you're going to have some bad weeks. The most important part is staying neutral and not riding the highs too high and not, getting too, down in the lows, right? It's about staying neutral, staying consistent. That's what a good sales rep does. No matter the external results, they just focus on consistent inputs. But inconsistency, what I mean by that is you're dependent on your income, right? So obviously, if you're feeling a little inconsistent here and there, that's going to reflect. But the inconsistency I'm talking about is within the actual info product, like marketing, business owner side of things, right? For example, I was on a launch in March for an offer. It was a huge launch, right? I was the top closer on there, collected over $200,000 in cash in a single week, right? Which was like $22K in commissions or something like that in a single week. But after that, it completely died out, which is normal when you have a big launch. The team collects, over 7 figures, right? That's obviously like expected. But the business owner that I was selling for, after like a month or 2, we were like, hey, like, can we start posting content, getting reels back up? And he just simply didn't do it. He didn't want to. He just cashed out $1 million check. He had no desire to post content and post marketing. And some business owners, let's say they go on a trip to Europe for the summer for a month or 2, they're not going to be focused on content as much and all these, different aspects, right? They're going to be enjoying their time off, right? And that's what I mean by inconsistency, right? Because yes, you as a sales rep, right? Like it's dependent on you and the money you make, but the side that I don't like of info products and coaching programs, and what a lot of people don't tell you, is the inconsistency when it comes to either bad content, lack of marketing, right? Or just lack of dedication and commitment from the business owner, right? The business owner is the one getting leads through their content. They're getting eyeballs on their social media. They're the one getting people into the funnel, right? But if you have no one to get you into that funnel, how's a sales team supposed to sell? And then your money and your financial burdens are getting affected by someone else, right? Which I don't enjoy. Right? I don't like letting the amount of money I make depend on someone else. So that's the first, thing I meant with inconsistency. And yeah, it gets tough the hardest part of sales is like the mental side. It's not even like the hours you put in. It's literally like the mental consistency and neutrality that you can have, right? Because again, like I made 22 grand a week. I was super hyped. And then the next month I made 3 grand and I was like, what the heck? Like it wasn't like I got worse at sales or, I wasn't doing what I needed to do. Like I just didn't have any leads or calls on my calendar because the business owner was lacking, right? So that's another thing. And then the third thing I want to talk about, well, I got 4 points. Third thing, and I know this is going to be, a little bit of a longer video, but the third thing I want to talk about is just people in general, right? So sales, the better you get at sales, the better you get at helping people, the better you get at communicating with people, right? But one thing with info products specifically that really like over time, I don't even want to call it burnout, but over time, I came to this realization that and that's why I literally made my last YouTube video, why the bar is so low in 2025 to be successful, right? And why people's comfort zone kills them. So the third issue with high ticket is that I want to, as a sales rep, help people more than they want to help themselves. And it's over time, it's emotionally draining and exhausting to want to help someone more than they want to change their situation. And what I mean by that is, yes, you technically get warm, qualified calls on your calendar from a setter, right? And you have, calls of people coming to you that are ready to buy. They just want to know more, right? And that's up to you to build the gap, right? As a closer, right? So, and when people hear this too, they're going to be like, oh, dude, just get better at handling objections or discovery, or, oh, dude, you're just not that good at sales then. And I would like to say that I've invested in a ton of sales training, right? I would like to believe that I'm, very good at objections. I'm very good at communicating with people, articulating my words and building a gap, finding a problem and building a gap around that and holding people accountable, right? Because I'm honest with people. Like if someone is fat and they haven't gone to the gym, I'm going to tell them, yo, you are fat and you're unhappy with your situation because you can't control your fucking nutrition or whatever. You don't have discipline. And I'm not afraid to tell someone that I met 10 minutes ago, because at the end of the day, I'm helping them, right? It might be tough love, but you're helping the person rather than patting them on the back for being fat, right? So some people might hear that and be like, oh my God, Jacob, like you're such an asshole, and think what you want, but that's at the end of the day, I know I'm helping that person, even if it's, in a tough manner, right? But back to my point, you want to help people more than they want to help themselves. It's just a name of the game, right? There's limiting beliefs. People want to, think about it. People have fear. People have uncertainty, right? When you're investing multiple thousands of dollars into a program that you don't know if it's going to work out, obviously there's uncertainty and fear. That's normal, right? But when you get to a point where you know that you can help the person, the program will benefit them, they want to do it, they just physically can't pull out their card and invest in themselves because they're scared, right? And it gets to a point where after 6, 8, 12 months of constantly pouring into people and wanting people to win and wanting people to get better, and them letting you down because they don't have the confidence or the conviction in themselves, or they never done something that is uncomfortable in their entire lives. And most of these people, 95% of the people I talk to, are broken-minded, right? They don't have discipline. They don't have consistency with their habits. They don't have, good nutrition. Like all of these things, built up over time, and it bleeds into every aspect of their life, right? It bleeds into their finances. It bleeds into, who they are as a person. And it's hard to want to help someone and want to help someone change their life and make a change and make a decision to, flip their situation around. I want that for people. I don't give a shit about a $300 commission. I'd rather see that person in the wins channel winning, making money a few months later because they put in the work and they changed their situation around, going from a part-time job they hated to making a shit ton of money, right? No matter the business model, right? But it's hard to sell someone change when they don't even want to themselves, or they have, they physically can't do it. And it's tough to watch people want to change, but they physically don't align their actions with it. And that's why so many people stay in the comfort zone. That's why the bar is so low. That's why so many people stay poor and stay comfortable. And it's tough to, pour into people more than they want to pour into themselves, right? So I know I kind of rambled on that point, but it's true. A lot of people physically don't have that ability to make a decision, and a conscious decision to make a change and, draw a line in the sand and change their situation. So that's the third truth about high ticket sales that people won't tell you, is it can be draining, right? And then fourth is, in my opinion, high ticket sales, info products and coaching are a great vehicle to make a lot of money and change your life. But as a closer specifically, right? A closer in high ticket sales specifically, unless you take the next step after being a closer, it's not a long-term vehicle for wealth, right? And what I mean by that is, when you're closing for someone's offer, right? You're building their brand, you're building their offer, their community, their legacy, their content is being ran to, you're closing for it, but they're building the empire, right? So when it comes to you being a closer, yeah, you're making money and you're learning sales and all this stuff, which again is a great way to start in business, but eventually you want more, right? You want more for your life. You want more money. You want to grow. You want to build, a bigger business. You want to grow within yourself as an entrepreneur. And as a closer, it's very hard. You stay stagnant, right? Even if you're making 30 grand a month consistently as a closer, you have nothing to show for it because you're just selling someone else's dream and empire. So that's why I personally don't think that it's a long-term vehicle for wealth, right? It's a very short-term vehicle to make a lot of money, to get into business. But when it comes down to it, you have to take that step to pivot into something else, right? Unless you pivot, there's two routes to go after being a closer, right? You can either become a sales manager, right? Or sales agency. And what that means is you manage and build sales teams, right? If you go the agency route, for example, you guys know Kishan, probably one of my best friends. He runs an agency, he has multiple clients, he does very well, right? And I left all that I had. I had a path to work with Kishan. I had a path to make a ton of money with him, potentially start an agency, to manage sales teams, to do all these things. But I just didn't want to do it specifically because for me, it just wasn't what was going to make me feel fulfilled. Yeah, I could make a boatload of money, but if I hated what I was doing, then is it even worth it? It's like if you offer someone $1 million a year, but they work 16 hours a day, never see their family, and they sleep for 8, and they can never see their kids. $1 million a year isn't worth it if you can't even see the people you love. So same exact thing. I don't care about the money because I know I'll make money with whatever I do, but it was the route of okay, this is not actually what I want to do. And being a closer specifically, right? Some people, they're two different skills, and that's another misconception. Closing deals and being a good closer and being good at sales doesn't always mean you're going to be a good sales manager. And that's because managing people, coaching people, helping people get better at sales, that's a completely different skill than actually selling a coaching program on a call. They're two different skills. Yeah, they go hand in hand, but it does, some people aren't good at managing people and being a leader, right? So it just depends on, really the vehicle that you want to be in long term, right? And I there's people that close for 2, 3, 4 years. I personally would rip my hair out and go crazy if I had to close, for info products for 4 years straight. I think I would lose my mind, right? And most people probably would, because it's exhausting, like I said, right? So in my opinion, there's two routes you go after being a closer. That's either sales management / agency model, or you start your own offer, right? And I personally had no desire to start my own offer because the only offer I would start would be sales training. I already coach for Closer Cartel. I already, have connections in the space within that. Like, there's no reason for me to just be another, sales trainer, right? So those two routes I decided weren't for me, and that moves me into my next point is what I'm going to be pivoting into. But the 4 points, the 4 truths about high ticket sales that people won't tell you is not as much freedom as you may think, the inconsistency of it, income wise, just in general, right? With business owners, inconsistency. Third is you're pouring into people more than they pour into themselves, more than they want to help themselves, and it gets exhausting over time. And I don't want you guys to think any of these things and think I'm complaining, because that's not what I'm doing, but I'm just laying out the raw truth and how I feel about the industry now. And just because someone watched it, if I had this video when I started, right, I would have done it, but I would have had an end goal in mind, whereas my end goal was just to close, which everyone, when you're getting into sales, high ticket sales specifically, right, when you start, your goal should be to closer and stack as much cash as possible and then figure out what you want to do later, right? So high ticket sales is a short-term vehicle, in my opinion, to actually do what you want down the road. So, and then lastly is it's not that long-term vehicle, which the long-term vehicle that I really haven't announced this, maybe on, to my friends or stuff like that, but the industry that I'm moving to is going to be life insurance. So what I'm going to be doing within that, and if anyone is interested in either high ticket or life insurance, reach out, hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on YouTube. I am going to be fully honest and transparent based on you and your situation and what you want, because I do believe high ticket sales, it changed my life. I do believe it's a great business model in the short term, whether that's 1 to 2 years, and then potentially doing something else. But insurance is also a great, business model to start as well in the beginning too. So reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with anyone that's, interested in just learning more about either. But the reason that I made this switch is the 4 reasons that I mentioned. And I just wanted something that I was going to be able to truly, become a multi-millionaire in, right? And agency or my own offer, yeah, you can do that, right? But it just wasn't the route I wanted to go, right? So with life insurance, right, you guys might be wondering what it is, right, and how it kind of works. So you're still a sales rep, right, in the beginning, but the beauty of it is you can build out a team and eventually grow a sales team to where you coach people. I coach people right now in high ticket, and I love it. I love helping people. I love seeing people progress and get better, right, and improve every day. So building a team, that's something I always have wanted to do, right? And I'm super excited to be able to do that in a vehicle that's going to help me, make millions from doing it, right? So you can build a team, right? And grow a team, build a team, make money from growing that team, right? And own a real book of business. That's the first thing. And then second is the ability, like I said, for long-term wealth, because from that team, obviously, yeah, you can make a shit ton of money, but better commission structures. It's not going to be an exhausting sale to where I'm trying to pour into this person to get them to make a change and, buy a program that I truly believe would help them, but they don't want to, change their situation, or they're too scared to. People probably are going to hear that and be like, oh, dude, you're just trying to make an easier sale. Yeah, it is way easier. I'm going from selling $8,000 coaching programs to $100 a month policies. I'm going to murder everyone, right? Or I'm going to not murder everyone, but just learn a lot faster, right? And be a lot better way quicker, right? So, that aspect. And then third is the residuals. And again, this goes back into a long-term vehicle for wealth, right? It's a long-term, growth, long-term vehicle. It's not just a cash grab, where you make $22K in a week and then make $3K the next month, right? There's residuals, there's team, building a team. So I'm still going to be using my sales skills, the way I communicate, my ability to articulate my words in a certain way. I'm going to be using all my sales skills just in a more sustainable vehicle, and having residuals, for the rest of my life from policies I sell, having a team, having long-term growth. And the fourth reason, and it kind of goes into like something people don't tell you about high ticket. High ticket is super unprofessional, right? The teams are fun to be with because it's, most of the time, like you become good friends with the people you're selling with, right? It's a good team culture, team meetings. You can be a little retarded, but at the end of the day, like, that culture is not what I wanted to be a part of anymore. What I wanted was to be a part of a culture and, have other people around me that were faith driven, that were focused on, getting up very early in the morning, hitting the gym, right? Being dialed, right? Versus, waking up at 8 a.m. and hitting your first call at 9, like setting and not hitting, like, it just didn't align with me anymore, the culture that I actually wanted, right? So that's the biggest, couple reasons why I switched: long-term vehicle growth potential, and, just doing something that I feel I'll truly be fulfilled by. And a lot of people, I thought at first, like, oh, life insurance, it's so scummy. Like, you're talking about people dying and stuff. And then I actually stopped making preconceived opinions about it. And I, actually, looked into it, and come to find out, like, it's a great product. It protects families. It doesn't, it's super manageable and affordable every month. So, it just came down to, like, I believe in the product. I see the benefit of it. I can make a boatload of money doing it. And I can not only change my life, but I can change other people's lives by the people that I recruit and the people that, come onto my sales team, right? I can change their life and help them make 6 figures in their first year and, become a millionaire as well. So the amount of impact that I can have, and, the positive impact and positive effect that I can have on, people is a lot more in this industry versus, what I was doing previously. So, that's everything that I laid out for you guys. I know this was a long video. Is over 30, we're at 32 minutes right now, but, yeah, I just wanted to be completely honest, raw, authentic, and just give you guys my honest opinions, thoughts, and feedback on, what I did, what I'm doing now, and why I switched. So, high ticket sales isn't bad by any means. It's just not built for long-term success and long-term wealth, in my opinion, unless you evolve. And yeah, it's a great vehicle, however, to give you business experience, entrepreneurship experience, make a lot of money, and get your foot in the door of business to actually figure out what you want to do. So ultimately, I switched because I wanted a path that, God had laid out for me, that gave me freedom, that gave me ownership, and, just truly becoming the person that I want to become and build the empire that I want to. So that's all from me. Thank you guys. If you watched to the end of this video, I truly do appreciate it, and I truly do appreciate the support. All I ask, like this video, subscribe, turn on the bell, and hit me up if you guys are interested in either starting life insurance or getting into high ticket. Either one is going to help you change your life. So other than that, that's all from me, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Deuces.